The story of sugar, a history of sweetness and exploitation. The rise of sugar consumption. In 1850, the average person consumed just 1.8 kilograms of sugar per year. By 2017 in the United States, that same amount was consumed in just 11 days, 3 times the maximum intake recommended by the World Health Organization. How did we get here? Sugar is everywhere, found in nearly every meal from breakfast to dessert. But just 500 years ago, this tiny cube of sweetness was worth its weight in gold. The pursuit of sugar drove the transatlantic slave trade, kick-started modern capitalism, and later contributed to a global obesity crisis. A special kind of sweetness. Humans have always enjoyed sweet flavors, using natural sources like grapes, dates, and honey. But sugar was different. It could be sprinkled, dissolved, baked, and stored indefinitely. It became a staple in festivals and celebrations worldwide, from Eid and Christmas to Hanukkah, Halloween, Easter, and weddings. What was once a rare luxury has now become nearly impossible to avoid. But how did sugar become such a dominant force in our diets? The origins of sugar. Our journey begins in New Guinea, where sugarcane was first domesticated. Chewing the plant provided energy and lifted spirits. Over time, the knowledge of sugarcane processing spread westward through India and China. In India, a revolutionary discovery turned sugarcane juice into solid crystals, giving birth to the word sugar, derived from sakara, meaning gritty particles. The process then spread to Persia and later to the Arab world. Enthralled by its sweetness, Arab conquerors introduced sugarcane to every new territory they claimed. The Crusaders, encountering sugar in the Holy Land, brought it back to Europe. To them, it was an exotic honey reed, providing energy and even being used medicinally. In an era where diseases like diarrhea were deadly, sugared water provided crucial calories for survival. For most of history, sugar was a rare delicacy. Imagine tasting it for the first time, its blissful sweetness and instant energy. Unlike bitter coffee, sugar is something humans are naturally drawn to, even from infancy. Sugar's journey to the West. Despite its appeal, sugar remained incredibly expensive in medieval Europe. In 1226, England's King Henry III desperately requested just 3 pounds of sugar from a merchant traveling to Cairo, an amount that today costs only a few euros. That scarcity was about to change. When the Crusaders were expelled from the Middle East, sugar production moved westward, eventually reaching Ecuador. But this shift also marked a dark turn in sugar's history. The birth of the plantation system. Initially, sugar was grown by small farmers. But rising demand led to a transformation, one that would dominate transatlantic trade for centuries. Investors developed plantations, vast estates dedicated to growing a single cash crop using forced labor. This model, first tested in the Mediterranean, was perfected in the Caribbean. After the Black Death and Mongol invasions devastated Egypt's sugar production, European powers rushed to establish their own plantations. The Spanish and Portuguese introduced sugar cane to their Atlantic territories, while Christopher Columbus carried it to the New World. Soon, the Dutch, French, and English followed, seizing colonies and setting up plantations of their own. But who would work these grueling fields? The slave trade and sugar's human cost. Initially, European powers experimented with indigenous labor and white indentured servants. But few Europeans were willing to risk the perilous journey, and those who did often perished quickly. Following the Spanish and Portuguese example, they turned to Africa, tapping into existing slave trade networks. The demand for enslaved labor skyrocketed, leading to the forced trafficking of 12.5 million Africans across the Atlantic. While slaves were used for various crops like tobacco and cotton, sugar plantations consumed the largest share, accounting for up to 2/3 of all enslaved laborers. These plantations also had the highest mortality rates. Unlike potatoes, which require minimal effort to harvest, sugarcane demanded backbreaking labor. It had to be planted, harvested, and processed rapidly, within 2 days of cutting, before the juice spoiled. Workers operated dangerous mills, where limbs were often crushed, requiring amputations with machetes. Boiling sugar juice to extract crystals was equally hazardous. If molten sugar splashed onto the skin, it continued to burn, a gruesome parallel to the furnace-like conditions enslaved workers endured. As plantations expanded, sugar prices dropped, making it accessible to the European middle class. Once a luxury for kings, sugar loaves now appeared in the homes of merchants and workers. The increased demand for sugar fueled investment, innovation, and even the rise of the global tea trade. From sweetener to global commodity, the explosion of sugar consumption reshaped economies and geopolitics. In the 1700s, Britain's per capita sugar intake far exceeded France's. Some historians even joked that bad English cuisine made sugar more necessary. But as sugar consumption soared, ethical concerns emerged. Quakers launched the first consumer boycott in history, refusing to buy blood-stained sugar. Their campaign spread widely, forcing people to confront the brutal reality behind their sweet indulgence. Despite opposition from industries profiting off the trade, abolitionist movements, political action, and massive slave rebellions, like the one in Haiti, eventually led to the end of the transatlantic slave trade. Yet, slavery didn't disappear overnight. Even after abolition, sugar plantations continued exploiting indentured workers from Asia and Europe under harsh conditions. In Cuba, half of Chinese laborers died before completing their contracts. Exploitation in the sugar industry persists to this day. The modern sugar industry. Fast forward to today, and sugar is in nearly everything we eat, often hidden in unexpected places like sauces, yogurt, and even bread. A typical supermarket would look unrecognizable if you removed all sugar-laden products. How did we get here? The story took a dramatic turn with Napoleon. His war against Britain blocked Europe from cane sugar, forcing scientists to develop sugar from beets. This discovery made sugar production possible in colder climates, but beet sugar was costlier than cane. Governments intervened, heavily subsidizing beet production. As a result, sugar production surged, and companies worked tirelessly to convince people to consume more. During both World Wars, soldiers were deliberately supplied with sugar to boost energy levels. After the wars, marketing campaigns targeted families, pushing sugary cereals, sodas, and processed snacks. By the 1950s, sugar producers even funded research blaming fat, not sugar, for health issues, leading to the rise of low-fat but sugar-loaded products. This deception delayed recognition of sugar's role in obesity, diabetes, and heart disease for decades. Where do we go from here? Sugar itself isn't evil, but excessive consumption, especially from hidden sources, makes moderation nearly impossible. What started as an unnecessary luxury has become an addiction, deeply embedded in global capitalism. The industry is still shaped by historical inequalities. Rich countries dominate beet sugar production, while poorer nations remain reliant on cane. Subsidies and trade policies continue to favor wealthier nations, keeping the playing field uneven. But there's hope. Just as people boycotted sugar in the 1800s, consumers today can make informed choices. Opting for fair trade sugar ensures that farmers receive a fair wage. Companies like Tony's Chocolonely are working toward a slave-free chocolate and sugar industry. Being mindful about what we buy may not solve everything, but small choices add up. After all, history shows that consumer action can create real change. So, next time you reach for something sweet, consider where it came from and the cost beyond its price tag.